Hello, Anomaly here, and welcome to another Quick Bites video. Today we're going to be talking about Fallen Order and the haste scaling issues that you've probably seen posted about in Peak over the past couple weeks. So without further ado, let's jump right in. First up, we're going to talk a little bit about the background of Fallen Order, the various changes gone over the past couple patches, what Blizzard has said about the spell. We'll go deep dive a little bit into the data, exactly what we found in 9.2 as we started to explore the spell a little bit more. And finally, what sort of implications does this have on you as you begin to gear, pick your stats, things like that, and making the most out of your Fallen Order usage? We only got about 5 minutes, so let's get going. First up, a little bit about the background of what Blizzard, or what we did in terms of testing. We really started our initial testing thinking there was some sort of haste scaling. We found basically nothing from our tests. Now, while the HOTS themselves did get affected by haste, basically enveloping mists, really nothing happened with the cast time for the adepts. We primarily tested this with Bloodlust because in the past it's been the best way to artificially inflate your haste to a point where you should see some drastic changes. So no real change in the way that they casted. Blizzard, however, did make a couple posts over the past few patches around Fallen Order and the Monks. So basically in 9.15, they made a post that said, we're removing the haste scaling, which at this point we didn't realize there was any, and also that they were hard coding the adepts to always cast 2 enveloping mists. We didn't see that either in 9.15. So again, at this point, we're just sort of not really paying attention to the spell. We don't think there's haste scaling. We think it's just random pet AI is the issue. On the 9.2 PTR, they made a change to basically only allow the Fallen Order Adepts to cast 1 enveloping mist per summon. This essentially greatly reduced the effectiveness of Fallen Order, and at that time, and this was fairly late, we basically thought Venthyr was dead in the water. So again, this was a change to basically hard code now only them to only cast 1 enveloping mist. However, when it went live, basically the day before, I think the weekend before, they made a post and essentially said they were reverting the change and that the spell would function like its 9.15 equivalent. That would allow, again, this haste, this mysterious haste, for somehow affecting the casting of the adepts. Now, again, we still didn't believe it was true or anything like that. However, we did hear a couple of folks, now that we had gotten enough gear and people were sort of messing around with some builds, saying at high haste levels, they were seeing weird casting by their adepts. So what do we do? And when I say we, I really mean Abe here Abe from Peak. Basically, Abe wrote a little bit of a script, pulled the data from about 1,800 logs on Warcraft logs, and what he did was he basically compiled all that with each log showing the number of cast events per clone, and then also transposing or overlaying the haste rating of the individual. What we then did was we basically averaged that information across a couple different haste rating bands, basically to see, did haste have any effect in the cast per clone? And we entered in, or we found out some interesting results. And here are our results really quickly. As you can see, haste does affect the number of casts each clone will get. You'll see a very, linear increase as you go up in haste rating from, 3, 5, 7, 9, up to 1,000, and really up to about 1,100 haste rating. You'll see that the casts generally increase. There's a little bit of wonkiness in the data at the higher end haste ratings, where you'll see like at 700, 900 haste, the casts are a little bit higher than the 900 to 1,100 haste rating. To be fair, that's probably just based on the less amount of logs we have there, data variance and things like that. However, you will see a huge drop off after 1,100 haste. Basically, you lose almost, half a cast per clone, which is a massive amount of healing. So what exactly does this mean, and what have we sort of inferred? Basically, we learned that around 33% haste, which is that 1,100 haste rating, Fallen Order Adepts begin to miss casts of Enveloping Mist. They basically sort of, for whatever reason, there is some sort of breakpoint around this haste rating where the Fallen Order Adepts just miss casts of Enveloping Mist. And this is consistent across multiple fights. So when we pulled those 1,800 logs out of Sepulchre, it was across every fight. Heroic, I think we primarily focused on heroic logs, but it was as many logs we get our hands on for this data. And across different play styles, many different types of talents, you could see the different haste ratings, things like that. And also Bloodlust, again, seems to have no effect on the outcome of the Adept casting. So it seems to be that this haste events are really just, or the haste rating really just comes from haste on your gear and things like that. Now, how does this affect you and the way that you're going to be gearing in the future? Basically, you're going to want to stay below 33% haste in all scenarios, meaning you never want to get a buff, whether that's temporary or not, that pushes you above 33% haste. So you want to keep on items and buffs that can change this. There's a couple of examples. You have Unbound Changeling and Celia's. From a trinket perspective, that sometimes grant haste rating, sometimes not. So you want to keep an eye on that. Keep, if you're going to use those, use variants that don't provide haste. If having them provide you haste will push you above 33% haste. You'll also want to take a gander at the Mad Duke's Tea. That's Theator Soulbind. Again, if that 3% haste buff pops up, you want to make sure you are below 33%. So in general, and to be fair, this is sort of a target. We are not saying that you need to get to 28% haste. We're not saying that you should be at 28% haste. We're saying that if you are going to go a build where you are stacking any sort of haste, you want to stay below 28%. This gives you enough leeway where if your changeling today is haste, it doesn't push you above that 33%. If you get a Theatar's Tea that's haste, it's not going to put you above 33% haste. So again, we think 28% is roughly a solid place to be from your gear. And that way, any random buffs you get, pushing you upwards or downwards, don't really push you into that above 33% world where your Fallen Order Adepts lose casts, which is always the thing we're trying to avoid. And that's basically it. We basically compiled, and shout outs to Abe or Abe again for, pulling most of this data together. It will sort of correlate that, going above 1100 rating, going above 33% haste sort of kills Fallen Order. So if you are going to stack haste, keep it around 28% and just watch those those sort of variable buffs. Well, guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to head over to Peak. If this changes, if there's updates from this, we'll sure to let you know. Keep an eye out there and have a good rest of your day. Bye.